Hi, this is Jedi's for Jesus, and as you can see, I really think the people on the opposite side of where I'm coming from definitely got in their heads. There are two clips that I want to go ahead and share with you, because these are the clips that the media should have went ahead and played out all the way through. So on this total video that I'm going to show you, this is a guy that has a show that's on another platform than this one, and he goes ahead and explains what the media does not show, and they just run with it. And the percentage of what they said good about Kamala Harris was like 80% was good, or even higher than that, and then 20% was only said good, or even 10% of what Trump was talking about. So in the past, when I grew up 30 years ago, the media they gave a fair amount of time for each candidate, and the media did not say, oh, we pick this candidate over the other one. But today, that is what they're doing. The mainstream media is out there. They're actually saying, this is who we would vote for. 30 years back, they didn't do that. And that's what they're doing today. So like I said, here are those two clips. This is what the media should have shown, but they did not. So I just want to go ahead and add this before I show you those two clips. But I am very happy that Trump won the 2024 election. And I just hope things change a little bit more, that you could speak a little bit more freely on this platform. That is why I'm kind of stretching and finding out that it's like, well, let's see if anything happens to this video. But I'm hoping that I'm okay, and I'm not going to go and mess up the guidelines. And if that's the case and this video is taken down, then I'll just put it on that other platform. But again, hopefully I'm not taking a chance by making this video. Thank you.
You had some very bad people in that group, but you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. And I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally. But you had many people in that group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists, okay? And the press has treated them absolutely unfairly.
She's a radical war hawk. Let's put her with a rifle standing there with 9 barrels shooting at her, okay? Let's see how she feels about it. You know, when the guns are trained on her face. You know, they're all war hawks when they're sitting in Washington in a nice building saying, oh, gee, let's send 10,000 troops right into the mouth of the enemy. But she's a stupid person. And I used to I'd have meetings with a lot of people, and she always wanted to go to war with people.
And now those people that lied to us, we're suddenly supposed to hand them our First Amendment right to free speech and say, you decide what's true and what's not true. I want to go through this, but to make this point, really, and help me make this point, is arguably maybe the most powerful entity in the world of communication, and that's Joe Rogan. This is just a clip from his interview with President Trump.
You just assume because people loved you on The Apprentice, they were going to love you as a president?
I figured it would be so easy. You know, it's
well,
very
it probably
interesting.
would have been if the media didn't attack you the way they did. If they didn't conflate you with Hitler. I mean, even today, like Kamala was talking about you and Hitler. They're going to take what you said about Robert E. Lee. Oh, Donald Trump wishes the South won.
That's right. He loves Robert E. Lee.
They love to take things out of context and distort things.
It's so crooked. The press is so crooked.
It's crooked, but it's also diminishing themselves.
hurting
They're
themselves.
killing all their credibility, and it's opening up the credibility to new media. It's opening up the credibility to independent media. It's because the internet's
think
giving
so.
people information that they're not getting from anywhere else, and they like the Very Fine People hoax, the Russiagate hoax, all these different things that they've done. They tried to pin on you. That's like it's a clear distortion of what you actually said.
And I believe that that is what happened to the Democratic Party. It got involved in lies and distortion. Somehow, maybe the same corporate interests that control that party also control the televisions, made their choice. But it's the lies and distortion that's destroyed the confidence that citizens have in the United States of America, in the government, in the regulatory agencies, and most importantly, in news itself. But I want to go through just a couple of examples. We won't go through the laptop story, which we now know the CIA and FBI lied to the world when they said that it was a Russia hoax. The hoax was being put on by the CIA and FBI, clearly for the interests of the Biden family. We won't get into many of the others. I want to get to the more modern ones, the one that keeps getting brought up probably the most, that Donald Trump is a racist. And I've heard this from my own friends and family that are liberals. Donald Trump's a racist. He never spoke out against the white supremacists. In fact, said there's good people inside of there. This is the line we saw all the time in the news.
But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides.
All right, well, that was the line. You heard it. It would be clipped exactly like that. And this is how they would use it to spread the fury and the rage against President Trump. Take a look.
President Trump's once again defending comments he made about the white supremacists and neo-Nazis who gathered in Charlottesville 2 years ago.
At a basic level, he is an indecent human being, and the comments that he made at Charlottesville bring that home, I think, more powerfully and more pointedly than anything else he has said.
He did not trip and accidentally praise white supremacists and neo-Nazis and pro-Confederate demonstrators who actually killed somebody this weekend. This was not a screw-up. What he is building back up is something that was a long-standing force for political power and terror in this country for generations, and he is now doing what he can to help them come back.
It is insulting. The president is ignorant of history. He does not know context. He should be ashamed of himself. He should go back to school and get an elementary education on how this country started and about protest groups and how this country works and who he represents and who he should represent.
You had some very bad people in that group, but you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. And I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally. But you had many people in that group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists, okay? And the press has treated them absolutely unfairly. But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides.
I mean, how do you defend that? You can't say that there's good people on both sides, and on one of the sides is white supremacists. How are those good people? A really good argument that half this country keeps making. But the problem is they use a manipulation that you can actually clip something and choose the part you want and take it completely out of context. Now, for those of you that are watching other forms of news, you've probably seen this. If you were strictly watching CNN, MSNBC, CBS, ABC, you never saw this. So for those of you that are still with us right now, let's for the first time show you what the entire statement sounded like and the part that they like to cut out. This is what President Trump actually said.
You had some very bad people in that group, but you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. And I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally. But you had many people in that group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists, okay? And the press has treated them absolutely unfairly.
There you have it. You never got that part of the clip. They say he never condemned them. What are you talking about? He condemned them in the very same statement, in the same room, on the same stage. You never got to see that part. I happened to be, I've even had a call because I was in Washington, D.C. on January 6th. I spoke on a side stage about medical freedom, and my experience of that event was mothers, children, grandparents, people sharing sandwiches, sharing blankets, all gathered together together. It was really beautiful. We never hear about those good people. All we see is the storming of the gates and all of the craziness, because that's all they want you to know that happened. And in this case, it's the exact same thing. President Trump is saying there was good people on all sides, and then there was this group that absolutely should be condemned, and he did condemn them. You never heard that. But the big one happened for me because of the work that I've been doing. I've actually been, speaking on stages where Donald Trump was also speaking, and I got to actually see him live for the first time, which was far more entertaining, by the way, than I had ever realized. But I invited a couple of family members. So you really got to see this guy speak, because these events are joy, love-filled. My wife even said the first one we went to just a couple of weeks ago, she says, oh my God, there's so much joy in this room. It's packed, like 20,000 people. They're singing and they're praying together, and just, it's a love fest and celebrating the future and a dream of the future. And then you go home and watch mainstream news calling the event I was just at with my family, something I would easily bring my kids to, calling them, white supremacists, Nazi rallies filled with hate speech. And I can't tell you what it's like to be like living in one world and then going and watching the news paint a totally different world for some people that are stuck in some bubble, unfortunately. And I'm not accusing them. To my family members and friends that may be watching this that bought into it, I get it. If you were coming home, if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I wouldn't believe it. But here is the line just last week that is an absolute lie about what was said. This is what they ripped into Donald Trump for saying, and I was in the room when I saw this statement made.
She's a radical war hawk. Let's put her with a rifle standing there with 9 barrels shooting at her, okay? Let's see how she feels about it. When the guns are trained on her face.
Well, that was the line. Certainly sounds terrifying and horrifying, and boy, they sure made it sound like that in the news. This is what you saw on all those other channels.
Trump calls for Cheney execution.
Donald Trump is escalating his violent rhetoric.
This is not acceptable. This is so dangerous.
A former president of the United States suggesting that guns should be trained at the face of a woman who simply just disagrees with him politically.
It's a direct threat, not 9 barrels pointed at her, 9 barrels shooting at her. This is just astonishing.
Let's see how she feels when the guns are trained on her face. Let's sit with that for a moment.
He is a sick man. He is a deranged man. He has certain well-defined personality disorders.
This is how dictators destroy free nations. They threaten those who speak against them with death, adding, "We cannot entrust our country and our freedom to a petty, vindictive, cruel, unstable man who wants to be a tyrant."
9 rifles aimed at Liz Cheney's face to shoot at her face. This is how Donald Trump is ending his campaign for president.
Anyone who wants to be president of the United States who uses that kind of violent rhetoric is clearly unqualified to be president.
Now, for those on the Trump side, imagine if you live in a world where that's all you heard all day, 24 hours a day. Sick, sycophant, liar, killer, calls for the assassination of Liz Cheney. I mean, honestly, that should be disqualifying if you start calling for the assassination of previous senators or congressmen, or really, frankly, any American. I would have agreed with that if it happened to be true. But here's the problem. Either every one of those people are absolute morons, which I doubt they are, or they are liars. Because all you had to do was go about 5 more words down the sentence to recognize that is not at all the context or what was being said. So shall we do this again? Why don't we play the statement that I saw with my own eyes and had to go home and watch my family members and friends have to sit through that live. But here's what was actually said.
She's a radical war hawk. Let's put her with a rifle standing there with 9 barrels shooting at her, okay? Let's see how she feels about it. When the guns are trained on her face. They're all war hawks when they're sitting in Washington in a nice building saying, oh, gee, let's send 10,000 troops right into the mouth of the enemy. But she's a stupid person. And I used to I'd have meetings with a lot of people, and she always wanted to go to war with people.
Actually, it's a statement that even Bill Maher said on his own show. He said, we lied. I don't know why we're lying.
I woke up today to the headline that Trump had called for a firing squad for Liz Cheney. And this is what I really don't like about the media. No, he didn't. He did not. You don't have to move me to not like Donald Trump. He's criticizing him for being a war hawk. I mean, she is Dick Cheney's daughter.
This was a statement that is exactly like what every peacenik has ever said. My own hippie parents always said if they just took these politicians, the Nixons and those that put our children at war, you know, Tricky Dicky, stick him on the front lines and then see if he's so keen to send everybody to war. When you make that statement, you're passionate about it. Why are you rushing thousands and thousands of our young children and people into harm's way for stupid wars that only sell oil pipes for your family or gas companies or this and that? That statement is made by Democrats forever, liberals, hippies. That was the statement. Was these politicians, they should have to sit on the front line sometime and then see if they want to send our kids to war at every single issue that maybe little conflict that's out there so that we can continue to make money for the CIA. All stuff, by the way, which is about to change. It is true. Donald Trump had less war than any president in my lifetime. He's the only one that backed out of war. Yes. He is against war if it's not necessary. The least, I mean, it should be the last absolute resort. But look at what they did. Those are criminals to me. That is not journalism. Every one of those people that hold the same title that I do, a journalist, I do not believe they deserve to be called that. Because you are lying to the people. You are knowingly taking something out of context and making it mean something completely different than what was stated. And by the way, when people are speaking live all the time and stepping in front of every camera, yeah, they're not going to say it perfectly. I hope they're not. They're not robots. I don't want like Post-it notes floating through that they can perfectly memorize. I like people that speak freely and put their ideas together. And if you're going to take every little word out of context because they didn't say the sentence structure exactly right, you know what you're doing. You know what they meant. When are we going to get back to what people mean? And I will say this. We're going to talk more about these issues further down the show. I have had the opportunity to be around Donald Trump a little bit. I've gotten to see him speak a lot. And I've gotten to watch him interact with people I really care about. And I've watched him interact with his own family and kids. And I will say this. He's a beautiful guy. He loves his family. He loves this country. And throughout this process, because I got to get close enough, I fell in love with Donald Trump, too. That may be shocking to many of my family and to other friends out there, but that was my personal experience.
I just want to say that I 100% agree with Del Bigtree. I've been watching him for over 5 years, and this guy's legit. You should look him up. A lot of information, a lot of truth that comes out of this show. And before I end this video, I just want to see what Donald Trump has to say about this.
I have a running war with the media. They are among the most dishonest human beings on earth.
Okay, that's good. Let's see what else he has to say. If you got any value out of this video, please like, subscribe, and hit the bell to be notified when we upload a brand new video. Thank you.
We are going to drain the swamp in Washington, D.C.
Yeah. Just one more.
They say, is Donald Trump an intellectual? Trust me, I'm like a smart person.
I know I said one more. Just got to do it one more time. That's it.
And yes, together, we will make America great again.
All right, I'll spare you any more. Like I always like to say, this is Jedis for Jesus. Hope to see you one day soon in heaven.